Area Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you for joining in with this discussion on Facebook Live with our business community and local leaders. Joining us today is Aaron McCrate, President of Visit Dothan, Chairman Mark Culver, Houston County Commission, Dothan Mayor Mark Saliba, and Chamber President Matt Parker. Thank y'all for joining us. Before we get started, I first wanted to speak on behalf of the group here and thank all of our healthcare community. We know that so many healthcare workers, professionals, and folks on the front line are making a difference trying to help solve this problem, and we truly appreciate you and thank you for what you're doing 7 days a week. Thank you so much. Secondly, I wanted to encourage those in our community to take your time before you make any rush decisions regarding business. Talk to your local financial institution. Call us here at the Chamber. There are plenty of people that can help you make wise decisions. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And we want to make sure that whatever decision you need to make that's in the best interest of you and your business is done with the most information possible. So please call any of us. Call us at the Chamber, 792-5138, and we'll be glad to give you some direction. First, I want to ask Chairman Culver and Mayor Saliba, one of the things that Matt and I have heard a lot about is a concern about a local shutdown. And can y'all speak to that? Is that going to happen from the local level?
Be glad to, and appreciate the question because I've gotten a lot of that as well. First and foremost, the county or the city doesn't have the ability to do a local shutdown. All shutdowns are done from either a federal or a state level. State level coming from the Alabama Department of Public Health through the governor's office. And so that's where that call would come from.
That's correct, and thus far that hasn't happened. We've had a lot of conversation about and a lot of rumors, frankly, at the federal level about a shutdown. Several states have done that. I think Louisiana, the closest to us recently. There have been a lot of just talk about a broad shutdown, but from our two offices and commissions, we don't have the authority to do that, and there's not any intention to do that. So we've heard those rumors also, and I actually have had calls in our offices about do you plan to shut down businesses and other things, and we won't be doing that from our offices.
Someone stopped my wife in the parking lot the other day and said, "Oh, I heard your husband's shutting down the city on Tuesday." And no, my husband doesn't have the authority to shut down the city on Tuesday. It does come from the state level. But I would like to throw in just a little bit. I think that what they're looking for is the numbers. And I think as we approach the end of the week, depending upon the data that comes back, and how restrictive we have self-imposed restrictions on ourselves. The better we do that in the short term, I think the better chance they won't. If we don't do a good job with that, I think there would be a good chance that they would shut down the state. So.
Right. Talk to us a little bit about city and county operations. Obviously, all of us want our trash to continue to be picked up and dealing with our utilities and the day-to-day essentials. If y'all could speak to that and how that might be affected.
Mr. Chairman?
Well, there's two areas of that. One, where we are now. All of our county buildings we're having no face-to-face transactions now. We are still serving the public online, by phone. We're still serving the public by mail. And actually today we're having drive-up, kind of like all the restaurants are doing. We have, you have the ability to drive up curbside. If you really have to come, we're encouraging people not to do that, but if you really have to come down to the admin building, you can do that and transact business that way. All of our other buildings, Road and Bridge and those type buildings are shut completely to the public. The courthouse is a little different animal. They're operating under the court order issued by the Alabama Supreme Court. There are things they have to do. So there are some things that are going on there. You need to call and find out what you need to do. I've got numbers we can put out later if we need to, but they have to issue warrants. They have to issue restraining orders, things like that have to take place. Now, if we go into a shutdown, as we just mentioned, and things change, then you go to essential services, and we start talking about what is an essential service. Obviously garbage that we just talked about, law enforcement, healthcare, groceries, those kind of things, but where do you go from there? All across the nation, that's been one of the big heated discussions is what is an essential service? And we'll have to figure that part out. And
But again, to make clear, we're not at that point.
we are not at that point yet. May come, and we'll try to figure it out when we do. But right now, we are not at that point yet.
Ma'am?
Yeah, it's a great question, especially after the first one. So the main function, I think, of a county and a city municipality, when you have a disaster of this proportion of pandemic, is to make sure that the essential services are continuing on. I know we're not trying to put off on the state or the federal government, but that's their role to determine what restrictions and guidelines we're to follow. But we're here to make sure that those things that need to happen will continue to happen. Police and fire and water and sewer, electricity, those essential services, as Chairman Culver was talking about. So we have already done some of the same thing. We have lessened the amount of face-to-face interaction, do as much as we can online, on the phone, email, and we'll continue to do so. We have also done, I'm sure like others, they have the COOP, which is the Continuity of Operations Plan for each department, which just has their plans by department so that if more people become infected or get sick, then what do? How does the police continue to function? There'll be different shifts, different amount of people working in separate locations so that there's not where we have a whole department that gets shut down. So all of that has already been taking place. All those plans have already been done for probably a week and a half by now. So we are preparing and are prepared to continue to provide the services that the city needs.
Yes, sir.
Well, I was gonna say, since we are a regional community, let me also say that Dale County, Geneva County, and Henry County are also in the same situation as far as county offices. They're not allowing the public into their buildings and operating in the same manner. Still online, mail, phone, so you can still transact business, but just not allowing people in the building.
Last week, both entities passed a state of emergency. Tell our viewers, what did that mean? What did that give you all the ability to do?
For the city, anytime we have had disasters in the past, such as Hurricane Michael last, when we declared a state of emergency for the city, it allows us to be a little more flexible and nimble, especially in the way of purchasing materials for that particular disaster that's occurring at that time. So that if we need to spend monies in order to help the city continue to provide those essential services, then we're able to do so without having to go through the 2 weeks of getting on the agenda and then voting. So it has to be specific to the particular thing like the pandemic.
Also puts us in a position to recoup money should that ever occur. In this case, we don't know yet. Not like most of this situation, we don't know what's going to happen, but allows us to recoup money, allows us to make some changes in meetings to address issues, just like we had the other day to cut back on our meetings, to close buildings, those kind of things. So it gives us some flexibility.
And so like FEMA, for instance, and so every number now that when we spend money, we'll have a number that goes to this particular accounting code. We know we spent this X amount of money on that particular item.
One of the concerns that Matt and I have heard here at the chamber is what's going to happen to our small businesses that are obviously facing significant challenges here, specifically retail, restaurants, hotels, bars. Matt, I'm going to let you talk for just a minute about what's going on in the small business world and what are going to be the opportunities for our small businesses to access some capital.
Yes, Dean, that has been one of the big questions. We were on a conference call with the other Big Ten cities last Wednesday when this hit. And obviously the hospitality industry, and Aaron can share a little bit more from his perspective on that, but obviously the restaurants, especially retailers, anybody associated with the travel industry has been the biggest, most immediate impact. And with the first congressional package that was passed to address this, there is an SBA direct loan program. You can go to Dothan.com, hit our COVID response space, and you will see the contact and the information to go direct to SBA to get some immediate dollars from that standpoint. In regards, in follow-up to that, there's also been another legislative effort, and really want to thank Hope Johnson and Davis Malone and Alabama Banking Association and our legislative delegation at the federal level for tweaking potentially the SBA 7A loan program. This is another response piece that actually, with banks that already have existing relationships with many of our restaurants and especially retail and service sector, they can access those funds better. The legislation provides a tweak to do a 100% guarantee for those employers and get that money out there faster. That's on the floor right now. Both parties have agreed to that program. There's some other other program information in that bill that they don't agree on, but everybody's on board with that because they know getting cash to our existing base is there. So please follow that. That is going to be evolving, obviously, but we'll be on top of it with the information on our website. And then also there are some other capital resources, a little bit different. They're not really geared towards disaster and emergency type lending, but I think with those two programs, that'll fill a big void out there in the business community from that standpoint.
One of the things that Hope has communicated to me and Matt, saying that she encourages every small business to go ahead and apply. This application process can take 2 to 3 weeks. Approval can take 30 to 45 days. Whether you think you need the money or not, go ahead and get in line. And Mark Cuban, who knows something about money, he has said every small business in this country should apply for this loan. So we encourage you to do that. Again, if you have questions, there's lots of resources out there about how to fill out these applications. You can call us here at the Chamber. We'll be glad to get you in touch with the Small Business Development Council. They're the ones that are going to be running it. They have points of contact that can help you answer any specific questions that you might have. Let's talk for just a minute about how important it is now in this time of crisis to support our small businesses. We know they are the backbone of our community, and we know that they're struggling. Let's talk for just a minute about some things that each of us can do and our community can do to support them and show them that we're standing with them. Aaron, you want to speak to that?
Well, I think, as Matt articulated, certainly the travel and tourism industry, the hospitality industry is just taking it on the chin right now, understanding that business across the board is struggling nationwide, worldwide. But in our lane, if you will, we focus on travel and tourism and hospitality, and it is unprecedented losses right now. And so we are just trying to emphasize locally, there are still things you can do. One of them being support our local restaurants, support our local retail.
Buy gift cards.
Buy gift cards now that you can spend later. Go curbside on a lot of these restaurants that are still open, that are still trying to keep their doors open, and just try to get through this. When, not if, when we get through this, we want those restaurants and those retailers still there, so we can all sell this community to our visitors and our travelers that are coming for these one-of-a-kind, unique shops, unique restaurants, unique experiences that only Dothan has. We need them to get through this, and we need to support those that are supporting us.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, that's right, and we're an eat-out community, so it's been really, I think it's been good, the response that we've had to the curbside dining, if you will, and the people I've talked to, the restaurants I've talked to, have been relatively positive, I think, in the response they've gotten. I know I've eaten out more than I have before, but our community is that way.
Yeah.
I mean, our community has always responded in times of need, and this is certainly no different. Our restaurants, but it's not just our restaurants. Our small businesses are going to need our help, and so we encourage everyone to support them, and our local businesses, but even our chains. When you go to a chain restaurant, yeah, it's owned nationally, but those people that work there are local people. So we encourage everyone to use those services now while you can, and we need it. especially if we go to a shutdown situation. Everything we do now is helping to soften that blow down the road.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, maybe to cover a different angle on that is our nonprofits and our faith-based communities. I've had a couple of people reach out and say, we'd love for our church to hire somebody, one of the restaurants, and to help with a feeding program. So you're hiring them to make the food and then giving it to people out there in the community. I think that's part of what Chairman Culver was talking about, how this community comes together during the difficult times to help one another. So that it means getting a little creative and thinking outside the box on how we can continue to support one another and our businesses. And I think through our faith-based community and our nonprofit entities, I think they can play a vital role in that.
And tip generously when we can.
Absolutely.
Because now more than ever,
Yes.
those folks need it. Matt, I know last week you had the opportunity to talk to some of our larger employers in the area. Why don't you share with our listeners today what kind of reaction you got from them?
Yeah, we called our top 25 manufacturers in our area. Everybody, believe it or not, they've been implementing some of them CDC guidelines the last three weeks before this all happened, and adhering to the spacing requirements, social distancing, and all that. So their focus is to continue to produce. And so that's a very positive thing. We did have one out of that group that has decided to shut it down to coincide with the schools shutdown. But all are in production mode and doing best practices and all that. So very positive. Of course, a lot of those are tied to the food-related industry, what I'd be considered essential services or DoD. So that's another factor. But they've seen an upswing actually because of the pandemic. The longer term issues.
Just for a second, I'm getting some notes that some people can't hear, so I think we all need to speak a little bit louder.
Okay, I'm getting that too. Also, people can't hear us.
The longer term issue obviously is the supply chain for some of those manufacturers, and right now the inventory base is very good, but that depending on how long this continues, that could be a factor several weeks down the line. So we're watching that very carefully. And one thing I wanted to circle around back to, Dean, back to the small business front. Our state has, through Alabama Department of Revenue, has deferred the remittance for sales and use tax for our small businesses. So that's really, obviously, Congress is working on continued unemployment insurance benefits for any of those that are dislocated. So please, as an employer, please stay tuned to that. Obviously, payroll tax remittance too is a part of that package to help provide more relief for the most affected sector immediately right now that we're seeing. So please adhere to that. And again, go to our website. We're going to keep it up every day on it.
Aaron, I know that we've had some tournament cancellations for the next few months, but there's still a lot of great things to do in Dothan. Talk to our community about some of those things that people can support. Support the industry.
At least for now. I mean, every day could be different, but we've really in the last week to 10 days or so just focused on what there is still to do. We are fortunate to live in a place and have the weather to go outside. So this is probably the best weather we're going to have in Dothan, Alabama all year. So get outside, enjoy it, get on the trail, go, whether it's botanical gardens or Forever Wild trails, just get out. I know my family's at home. My kids have been off school for more than a week now, as everybody else's has. And I know my wife is looking for things to do and looking for ways to get them out and what's still available, what's still open. And we have a list on our website, visitdothan.com. We're constantly posting on social. We're going to be talking about Dothan distancing. What can you still do in Dothan while being smart about it, being healthy about it, and looking out for yourselves and others. But just get outside. Go. We have great trails here. We've got great attractions that are still open. Now, while their main office or their administrative or their gift shop might not be open, their trails certainly are. Their attractions certainly are. So we would just learn to appreciate what we have. Maybe take this opportunity to see what you have in your own backyard while we still can and while we can still get outside and enjoy those things.
Yeah. I did have a question come in, and it's from a listener, Mayor and Chairman Culver. in Dothan, what's some of the things that are being done to supply food to those families that don't have any, and obviously for our school kids? Can y'all speak to that?
Well, we're continuing to have our school feeding programs that are going on, and matter of fact, I was on the phone with a conference call with Superintendent, State Superintendent of Education, Dr. Mackey, and they've, any school system, and ours fits the requirements, can now fall under the summer school feeding programs, which means we can continue to feed all of our children. And so that's continuing to happen and take place now.
And even some of our small businesses we talked about are providing free meals to children. You know, you can look online and see who those are and where, and you know, so they're, even in their difficult times, a lot of them are stepping up to help in those situations. And through our Joint Information Center, a lot of people are calling down there. Our 211 is keeping up with all that information. So as we mentioned earlier, we have a community that takes care of our own, and there are a lot of programs out there that are being used. So, and while we're talking about that, one of the things we mentioned before we start talking, we have a critical shortage of blood. So we need people to, if they will, if they can, while they can still get out and give blood. Go to our places that you can give blood, and let's get that blood supply back up while the opportunity is there, because we're gonna need that when we can't give blood, if that comes.
Matt, another question we had is 2 locally owned restaurants are an average of 75% down in business. What can y'all do to help us, many in danger of not surviving this crisis? If you want to speak again to the small business loans, and that's the first bucket, and then we're going to hopefully have another bucket when Congress passes this next.
Yeah, I agree. Go direct to SBA for the disaster relief loan program on that. Again, there's more legislation pending that will add to that piece in partnership with your local bank to help get a quicker turnaround time on that. You know, take advantage of the you know, tax remittance periods where you got some more time to reduce that cost and that burden initially. Fortunately, our legislative delegation in the Wiregrass area has been very attuned to what's going on. We did a conference call again last Friday, getting ready to do it next Wednesday, because there may be some additional things that need to be addressed at the state level, so we appreciate their engagement on that. But just stay tuned to that. That's the most immediate. Again, really encourage our people to shop local, help our local restaurants. Eat once a day at least to help you know, our local restaurants and our food establishments, because they are the backbone of this community, and we appreciate what they're doing.
Yeah, and I just want to share, I'm getting several text messages from people talking about local folks that are partnering with churches and doing blood drives. So again, call us here at the Chamber. We'll be glad to connect. There are a lot of great people in this community that are absolutely doing the best that they can. And again, we'll be happy to connect anybody that has any questions or needs some information to those resources. Also want to mention too, again, as Matt has said, visit City of Dothan's website, visit the Chamber's website, visit the Houston County website, visit Dothan's website. We're all collecting information, trying to be a great resources for you to have that up-to-date information. It's changing daily. Also want to plug Southeast Alabama Works coronavirus Facebook page that they've created, where they're linking people that have lost jobs to the coronavirus to businesses that need employees. So that's a good way to connect there. And if you go to Indeed.com, there are still a lot of jobs that are open in this city, in this community. We also have a lot of great employment service agencies in our community that can help. So again, there's lots of resources. Check with the Dothan Career Center on the Ross Clark Circle. Jenny Stevens and her team doing a great job. If you need to file for unemployment benefits, that's the place to go as well. So again, resources, and trying to connect and make sure that people have those. Continue to follow us on Facebook, connect with our websites as well. Yes, sir.
Can I add in I think a couple of websites that I look at every day, probably more than once a day, is the Alabama Department of Public Health, ADPH, because if you want to know what's coming down the line and what is going to happen first, they're the ones that are making those calls on what restaurants are staying open, but they'll also be the ones that, as we move forward, that will determine essential versus non-essential businesses. If the state decided to go into some kind of further, lockdown, they would be the ones to decide, not the city or the county, deciding on what businesses are essential or not. That comes from the Alabama Department of Public Health as well. So I check it, and I check the governor.alabama.gov, her website as well, for all the latest releases. It also has on the ADPH website how many cases of COVID-19 cases there are in the state of Alabama and where they are. So it that's the numbers that they're looking at. Again, it's a numbers. It's not say a numbers game, but it is a numbers game. The more information we have, the more tests that are done out there, the more we know where the virus is, the more informed decision and educated decision will be made on the state level.
Yeah, and we talked about getting out and doing things. Just be sure you keep that under 10 people, because
Sure.
The thing about this is an extremely contagious virus that we're dealing with, and that's the thing. The percentage of deaths and all that we've all heard is not huge, but it is extremely contagious. So, yes, get out with your family and parks and those kind of things, but if you're not doing that, stay at home. We're really asking people to stay at home, and it was interesting yesterday. Yesterday was an unusual day in our community. I don't know, maybe it's just unusual to me, and maybe I'm unusual, I don't know. But if you looked on social media, there were more church services available to you yesterday than any time I've ever seen in my life.
I think I attended 3 in one day.
Well, good. That's good. I'm sorry.
I needed to.
Yes, you did. I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. But, one thing about that, if this lasts a long time, I hope that doesn't become the new norm. That concerns me personally a little bit, but we'll see how that goes down the road. But the other thing is, I think we're going back. If there's any good out of all this, I think we're going back to some of our mine and your old roots. I saw more people playing in the front yard and doing things together as families that we didn't see that going on for a long time, or haven't seen that a long time. So, those kind of things are good, and as you stay home, as you should, to keep this thing from spreading, that's a good that can come out of all this. And we encourage those kind of things, parks and doing things together at home. Will make all of this, make us get some feel good out of all.
The things that didn't seem so important a week ago are seem very important.
It is a new world we live in, and unfortunately, 2 months down the road, if we have to go through what some people are afraid we are going to have to go through, it's going to be a different world we live in, and us as leaders are going to have to figure out how we adapt to that new world, but we will, and we're going to come out of this fine. Particularly in our area, we have the best people in the world, and we're going to be fine.
I want to reiterate about that SBA economic disaster loan. I had a text from a local business lady who had filled out the application over the weekend, and she's hearing that it may be much longer than 3 weeks because of the sheer volume and the number of loans and lack of processing centers. So again, local businesses, get in line, get that paperwork done. There's resources to help you figure out how to do all the application, and it is going to take you some time to do it. So I'd encourage you to go ahead and start that process now, because there's going to be a delay, and we want to make sure that you have that availability to cash as well. In closing it out, I just wanted to maybe ask our 2 leaders here. This is a super community. We are definitely blessed with the people and the businesses and the churches and just the entire structure of what we have in Dothan, Alabama. There are a lot of great people out there really putting their heart into trying to help folks. And what do you say to those people who are taking time out of their day to help feed kids and to be at nonprofits and to really try to make a difference?
Well, we have a lot of community heroes that go unsung throughout the year most of the time. They're doing a lot of that day in and day out, and I should find a better way to reward them and give them a pat on the back I think that you'll see that, now doubling and what can happen and go on out there. On the way over, I came by one of the, talking about the healthcare community, I came by one of the pediatrics businesses, and they're the nurses that are out there, and they have their masks on, the gloves on, and they're sitting outside and still trying to continue to help people that are coming, because you got to know that this is not the only thing going on. COVID-19 is not the only thing going on. We have people out there that are suffering from other illnesses as well, and people that have heart conditions and cancers and flu, and they're trying to take care of all those people as well. They truly are our heroes in our community, those that are caring for others selflessly and all diligently, just day in and day out. I can't say enough for our community and what they do.
Sure.
Yeah, and thank you seems so short, but I'll say, of course, Mark and I, of the five of us, are the only two that have been born and raised, and me a little before him, but our whole lives here. Careful now. But we've seen this all of our lives in this community. This community has always stepped up and has always done what we needed to, and this is no different. We expect it, and it always is the case, and yes, we appreciate all of that. But we expect it from our people. We have the best people in the world that live right here, not just in Dothan and Houston County, but in the Wiregrass. And as I said a minute ago, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to take care of our people. This is going to be painful. We're not to the worst of this yet, I'm afraid, and I don't want to be negative, but we've got to hold hands together, not literally, but figuratively. Yeah, and make it through this. But we're going to do that, and we're going to come out of this on the other end, and we'll be strong together as a community. The city and county work very closely together, and we're going to continue to do that to make sure we all come out of this good, and we're going to be all right.
Well, thank y'all for your leadership. Thank you for being here today, and thank everybody for listening in. Again, if you have questions, feel free to call any of our offices, and we'll be glad to help. And stay safe and shop local. Thank you.